Hi and welcome to Teach Style. So in today's video we're going to be looking at leading by example. Exciting. I'm probably going to teach you how to suck eggs. However, we're going to go through all the bits that I think will help you as a teacher rather than necessarily dwell on the obvious things. If you like these videos, we release these 5 o'clock every weekday. And if you want to keep up to date, obviously click subscribe and click the bell icon, whatever the heck that means. Because it means that it comes to your feed or something, I don't know, some YouTube thing. But the first aspect I want to talk about in today's video is going to be in the classroom. So what can we do as teachers in the classroom to be better role models? The first thing that springs to mind is obviously, talking about things in the classroom, such as attitudes towards smoking or drugs or alcohol or whatever. We need to be presenting ourselves in a very positive light. Obviously, we're anti-smoking, anti-drugs, and drinking in moderation is always good. I've witnessed many teachers fall foul of that and start gloating about a night out they had. I don't personally think that is at all appropriate as a teacher, but equally a lot of the students that we teach are very impressionable. I think that the issue with the teachers that I've had conversations with after flouting their weekends is they don't realise how much the students look up to them and take their internal norms from what they're seeing from the teacher. Now, obviously, tying in with that, swearing inside the classroom, it's very, very difficult. Obviously, the F and C word, blah, 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 obviously. But there are some words that some people don't know are that rude, and there's some words that even I don't know whether they are that rude. Now, because it's YouTube, I can't share them, but the types of language that I'm talking about, the kind of grey area words. I probably would avoid them. In fact, I do. It is different when I'm discussing certain topics, say if I'm teaching a psychology lesson and there's some reason why I need to say those words, and the students I'm teaching are sort of sixth formers, so 16, 17, 18 years old. It's a very different situation to a year 7 and 8 class, and there's always a balance there. And as a teacher, our job is to understand when something is appropriate and when something's not appropriate. However, I think if you have to stop and think, should I be saying this story or should I be using this word or whatever, you probably shouldn't. You probably shouldn't. And it's safer not to, because there have been situations, plenty of situations where parents have complained. Actually, the most complained about thing is not a swear word, oddly enough. The most complained about thing in my experience to do with this topic has been the teacher told my son or daughter to shut up. Now, shut up is not a rude word or a swear word or a naughty word or whatever. I have no problem YouTube hearing me say that word. However, it is really rude. And I don't think some teachers know how rude that is until necessarily they're on the other end of it. I kind of, obviously I support my staff and I find a kind of middle ground and, sort these things out in that kind of way. However, internally, I fully support the parent. I don't think that a teacher should tell a student to shut up. There might be people out there who completely disagree with me, and I absolutely respect that. However, so there are some words and some phrases and the way we say things sometimes that is unnecessarily aggressive, maybe. When I tell you to shut up, it's kind of aggressive. Oh, can you sit down for me now? Or it's more passive. So being a role model is being calm, collected at all times. And I'm going to do a video down the line on this, but we are actors. We are not people. And I think as soon as the penny drops with NQTs or PGC students or skit courses or whatever, like trainee teachers or early teachers, that we are acting rather than we are people, I think teachers start to, instead of losing it inside a classroom and getting to a situation they're so angry, they're telling someone shut up or whatever, they find a much different way of approaching it because they're actors and they're acting a role of someone who's calm, etc. But we'll go into that in a later video. The other thing I want to discuss just briefly is sarcasm in the classroom. Now, some teachers derive. The other thing I want to discuss is sarcasm in the classroom. Now, some teachers derive all their behaviour management from sarcasm, and I'm not going to pick on a specific subject. However, there is a specific subject, PE, I mean, whatever, who do seem to fall into that trap. Not all of them, like a lot of them don't. But if I was to guess at a subject a teacher was, a teacher had a complaint about sarcasm, it probably would be that one. Now, it's a very, very difficult one because I've seen some amazing teachers. Actually, one comes to mind as a history teacher who was incredibly sarcastic and almost on the verge of humiliating students who stepped out of line, on the verge but not quite past that line. And it worked really well, and the students worked really hard for him. He got amazing results. So it's very difficult for me to completely go down this path. As a choice, as a teacher, I've made is to never use sarcasm, or try not to. The only type of sarcasm I use is self-deprivation, because it's amusing and the kids find it funny, and it helps me get a rapport, and it's just my personality, helps me get a rapport with the class. But I would not recommend any sarcasm directed towards students, and it's very, very easy to do. Such as, I don't know, a student, answering a question, what's 1 + 1? They say 3. You go, are you serious? Like, how can you think that? Blah, blah, blah. But I think where sarcasm and humiliation kind of intertwine, it's not a good place. And, even when it does work, I question whether there's been kind of like a negative impact from the student from that. And the teachers I've seen who have done it really well have been few and far between, and they've been very, very good at doing that. And I've seen a lot of people who are sarcastic and do it very badly. So we've talked about inside the classroom, but let's talk about wider than that, like outside the classroom. So the most popular one to discuss really about being a role model is the fact that I have like 4 minutes to get my lunch from the canteen, and the queue is like at least 10 minutes long. So as a teacher, because I am better than the students, I just cut in, at the front, and I don't even ask the student. I don't say, "Can I cut in here, please?" or whatever. I just do it. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good being a role model. Now, it's very difficult. Again, it's one of those topics where teachers say, "Oh, but I've only got." Well, then talk to your school. Like, talk to the school about the way the canteen's done, and talk to your department about why you have only 4 minutes to go and get your lunch. I personally bring a packed lunch, so I've never eaten in the school canteen, although I'm sure they're very nice. I personally like to sit and do my work. I don't want to have to go down and waste time doing the canteen. But that's part of being a role model. But more important to me, and to some people, they live and by the fact that we as teachers should never cut the line in the canteen. More important to me is around school, just saying hi to people, just being nice. And whenever I see a student I teach or a student I know, I always go, "You okay, Jimmy? You okay, Katie? How's it going?" And that is being a role model. It's being a positive role model around the school, and actually it pays dividends down the line, because normally the first time you say hi to a student, they blank you. They do not want to know. They pretend they haven't heard you. The second time, third time, fourth time, they probably still maybe grunt, but eventually they'll turn around and they'll respond, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, thanks, yeah, you're very good, yeah." And it gets to a point down the line, normally with some students way down the line, where they are the ones saying hi to you. And it really does work. Maybe not for every single student, but for a lot of students. And it's worthwhile doing, because that carries through to the class. And even if I don't teach them, that maybe carries through to next year's class, or when I've got to intervene as a TLR holder or senior leader, or whatever the situation is. So it's really, really helpful. The other thing along with that is just holding doors for students is really, really good. I know some teachers believe that they are way higher than any student. If you hold a door open for a student, they actually remember that you're a nice guy, you know, whatever, or nice lady, whatever. And that can only be a good thing. So I always hold doors open for students every single time I walk around school. And the other thing, just a small thing, is just pick up litter around school. I know that the students threw the litter down. As teachers, we don't litter. But if a student sees you do that, they not only are more likely, not necessarily certain, but more likely to pick up litter themselves, but they see in you that you care about where they go to school, that you care about keeping it a nice community, and it really does pay dividends. I'm not suggesting that if no students around, kind of wait there until they arrive to pick up litter, but it's one of those things that I had never thought about until quite recently, and I have done, and just never really thought about the impact of it. The last area is just your attitudes towards specific things, and this is probably an SMSC kind of thing, and maybe you do this in PSHE, but maybe you do this in form time. Maybe there's a different avenue for this, but I mean, I would say if you've got strong opinions about something, then be very careful sharing it with a group. That doesn't mean don't share it with a group. It means be very, very careful. For instance, if you have very strong anti or very strong pro homosexual beliefs, then think very, very carefully whether to share those with classes. This might be attitudes towards smoking or drinking, race, sexuality, gender, or just politics. I would be very, very careful about sharing those beliefs, because I have witnessed, not very often, but I have witnessed teachers share a very extreme view, and as teachers I think we've got to be very careful to show both sides of a debate if the political climate is to show both sides of a debate, but really not necessarily to promote one view and above another, and be very careful about how we do that. It's a very, very difficult thing to discuss, as you can tell. However, I think that it's important just to add to this video, and maybe in the comments you might want to discuss this further about incidents that you've seen, or incidents or questions you have about whether you should share something. I'm not saying necessarily that if you tell students you're a conservative voter that it's going to destroy the world, but I think that it's dangerous to share too much stuff about yourself, and I think it does set you up with parents to have a very interesting and difficult discussion, which is not necessarily anything to do with the subject you're teaching. So for instance, if you're a physics teacher, your parents don't need to know that you are a stern, I don't know, UKIP supporter or whatever. They don't need to know that. It doesn't help your teaching of physics. So just be a bit careful with that, because I've seen, few and far between, but I have seen people get into a lot of issues with that. Not necessarily trouble, but a lot of issues with that. So I hope you found that video useful, and hopefully it wasn't too much teaching you how to suck eggs, and hopefully there's something there that you find useful and find helpful for your teaching going forward. If you like this video, please click like, and that helps me out and helps the channel out. And if you want to see these videos in your inbox or in your YouTube thingy bob, then click subscribe. They come out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday at 5 p.m. UK time. If you've got any questions or comments or anything, please put them down in the comments section. I will read all of them, and I will be doing special videos on a regular basis that discuss some of your comments or answer some of your questions, or attempt to answer some of your questions. Thank you very much.